Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderville Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to talk the new General's Handbook, because there's been a lot of discussion about all the things, and after playing quite a few games now with the new General's Handbook, I thought I would give some of my thoughts, my big wins and my big losses of the new General's Handbook, because this, while I do like a lot of things in there are certainly some definite flaws, I think, within this particular General's Handbook. Now, I'm not going to touch on two particular subjects in my list because I think they're widely known, and first of all, it is the up to cost, obviously. Now, plus with 2 editions coming a year, that cost goes up. I'm not a fan of 6-month seasons. I don't think we're going to see enough play from this book for the average gamer. I think it's not good for the average gamer. For someone like me, I'm going to play 100, 150 games in 6 months. That's quite easy. But for, the basement gamer or whatever that plays 2 or 3 games, maybe a year, this is definitely not a book to pick up for them. So that would be my first recommendation of, if you are just a much more casual gamer playing 2, 3, 4, 5, even 20 games only a year, I would just play your games out of the core rulebook. Honestly, use that battle pack, or grab something like Thondia and use that battle pack, and not worry about keeping up with the General's Handbook, or grab one when you want some new missions, but not worry about following it too much. Points are available for free online. But with that said, before we get into this, I will say, these are my thoughts and my opinions on what I think. I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts and opinions as well. I'm completely up for being swayed in my discussion on this. This is just after playing quite a few games. I've now got quite a few under my belt, playing all the scenarios that are available, playing with quite a few different armies, and a few different modes of play. We'll see what I think. So let's get cracking on. We'll start off with the good, because I like starting off on a positive note. And so, number one, the first thing I noticed about this, and there are particular missions that I really like in this, is a new way of exploring how to utilize objectives within the game. Now, this is something definitely that I thought Season of War Thondia did really nicely in changing up the battle plans, not having symmetrical battle plans, having, 2 different objectives for the players, or even having alternate styles of objectives. There's one battle plan that uses table quarters as objectives in the game, and I really like that. There's another one that you have to control, your home one, then the next one, and then you can control your opponent's one, which sort of has this tug of war one. That scenario has its own issues, but I do like the idea of that, and I'm glad they're exploring more and different ways to utilize objectives within the game, because this opens up and makes for much more interesting missions. I think the more we start seeing this sort of stuff explored, I think the better the missions are going to get, and we're going to have a much more vast variety of missions, rather than we're just deploying in a slightly different formation or deploying in a different area of the battlefield and having the same sort of score 1, score 2, score more apply on 6-inch rings. I think there's some really nice stuff that can be done with this, and I really like that we saw some start to explore it more, because it was really great in Thondia. Number 2, for the good, making the priority roll interesting. I don't think we've ever had the priority roll as interesting in this, and the second turn of, the battle round be as vital as it is now. Of course, we saw them start to play around with more than just a roll. We've seen the evolution of it over time, where first of all it was just a straight roll up, then we had the person on the double loses ties, and now we obviously had, just in the previous season for Thondia, we had you destroy 1 objective if you go second on turn 3. Now we have the whole Proving Grounds rule, and in some scenarios the ability to activate objectives. I think there's a lot to be said in how the game can work now with the priority roll. I really like how they've gone about this, and the priority roll for me has never seemed more interesting than it does right now. I think there's more ways they can look to explore this in other ways and utilize the same stuff they've done here but change it up, but definitely this is a massive positive for me, as one of the hardest things to get someone over in Age of Sigmar is that double turn, the priority roll mechanic. Number 3, grand strategies. These, I think, are a massive improvement on the previous one. No longer are we going to have, the monster behemoth or battle line ones be auto takes. I think you really have to work for all your grand strategies, and they will be a true tiebreaker. They aren't without their flaws, however. I do think a lot of them are win more, but for me, you know, these two players have got to the end of the game. It's a tie. It's that player that's won more that should be getting the tie on a grand strategy, should be splitting the difference. So I don't mind a sort of win more mechanic in a grand strategies instance, because of what it is actually trying to achieve, is trying to split two people who have had a tie. So the one who's won more should get the grand strategy over the other. Number 4, a formula set. And what do I mean by this? Now, we've seen the same thing in the last one. First of all, we had a particular, in Thondir and in the new one in Galet, we have a particular type of unit that is special. We've also had a realm spell and a realm command added in, and then we've also had a, you know, objective playing mechanic in both of these. It seems like we have got this formula now of how we're going to go about and make all these things in the future, and I like this. I like this idea of a formula that we can continue tweak with, but this sort of core foundation now of what we are going to expect in a season of Age of Sigmar is really nice to have. I think having something like this sets what we are going to get, sets the game up from changing too drastically with how this works. You know, all of a sudden we get, oh, we're playing in a different realm, now we have 3 spells and no command. I think, you know, this is really cool in how we are going to have the game going forward. Number 5, overall, we have better battle plans now, I feel. I think we have a much more diverse option of battle plans, but I think how the battle plans are picked is different. Before, with the last season, we would pick the most balanced overall of all the battle plans, and generally there was only about 5 or 6 that I think really deserve to be in a tournament. Now I think how you pick a tournament is you have those balanced ones, but you also need to have ones that maybe the 3 ways that we can build armies in the game as it seems at the moment, or those 3 different things you can focus on. We have to have battle plans, you know, reward veterans. We have to have battle plans that reward hunters, and we have to have battle plans that maybe reward a counter army to those 2. And I think we have that in these battle plans. You can have, you know, start and finish can be really nicely balanced scenarios, and you can have these 3 stages to go through of, can your army do this, can your army do this, can your army do this. I think overall, so long it might be hard for a TO to make that balance properly, but I do think we have the tools now and the better battle plans to be able to run a better tournament with better battle plans. And so we move on to my negatives. Some of these I would go as far as to say I hate them or I don't like them. Hate's a strong word, but yeah, some of these I definitely don't like. First of all, this I probably is a hate, and that is special rules in battle plans just are not needed. Sometimes a battle plan is nice because it's simple. I remember, you know, playing First Blood. That silly little rule where you got the command point or whatever in First Blood in the last season just was not needed at all, and it gave nothing to the battle plan that was interesting. In fact, I can't even remember using it in any of my games on the channel, and no one ever commented that we forgot it. So for me, not every battle plan needs to have these special rules. Sometimes it is a special rule that makes it different, but sometimes just having your objectives be something different, or having you know, something different about your deployments is all it needs. Now, by special rules, obviously I just said, you know, your objectives are different. I'm not classing objectives as a different special rule, but I'm discussing, you know, things like that rule I just said in First Blood, or, you know, that battle line, you get extra points for killing battle line in this, or you get extra points if a hero with an artifact controls an objective. Those little weird silly rules I'm not a fan of. I think a lot of them can do more damage to a scenario than good. Number 2, Galetian Veterans. Now, I'm not against the concept of Galetian Veterans entirely, but herein lies my problem with them, in that we look at the previous season with Thondir. You go, cool, monsters are in this season. Everyone knows what a monster is. You can look at the table and go, these are the monsters on the table. These are the things that are going to rule the game. With Galetian Veterans, it's adding another layer of knowing what is a Galetian Veteran. And with some armies, things aren't always Galetian Veterans. So it's not just simply a fact of going, these are Plague Monks, so they're Galetian Veterans. Well, it turns out that Skaven army doesn't have a Plague Priest, so they're actually not Galetian Veterans because they don't become battle line in that force. And there's a lot of armies that can play around with this. For me, I don't particularly like this as a mechanic. I would prefer to either to be all infantry models in the game or none at all. And so I think that's the way it should have been. It should have just been all infantry. Anything with 5 or less wounds, you know, or anything, no, even more than that. Anything that is not a hero is a unit that is not mounted. And done. That could be Galetian Veterans. That way every army would have got one, because you could have gone and given one to your Sons of Behemoth that way, and that way everyone could have had it. But for me, it's that extra layer that I don't like. And we'll talk about more of the issues I have with this in a sec on my next one. 3, Bounty Hunters. Now, my issue with Bounty Hunters is I do think the +1 damage is too big a deal. We already had an issue where units in the game were perhaps maybe causing too much damage, and Bounty Hunters just further increases that. Now, a lot of people I've seen, and I myself got excited, you know, playing in more casual settings where I go, all my lesser units got better, but so did all my better units, you know. Why would I not just continue to take Phoenix Guard in my city's army instead of trying to fit in something lesser than them that got to the level of Phoenix Guard by getting +1 damage? Now, the damage is one issue on Bounty Hunters, but the thing is, because it is so good, I think it hammers Galetian Veterans way too much. In the games I've played, no Galetian Veteran unit stands in the way of anything Bounty Huntering it. I've never had units stand in the way. And I think herein lies the problem, is it makes a mixed message. For those in the know, we're going to take Bounty Hunters and we're going to remove our opponent's Galetian Veterans very easy. But for those, once again, a more casual audience, they've been told by GW that this is an infantry edition wherein they're going to go out and buy massive blocks of infantry, they're going to put them on the table, and I'm going to charge a small block of Bounty Hunters into them and remove them off the table. I think this sets up a false hope of what the edition actually is going to be about. And I don't think it's fully explained more. And this goes back to my point where I think we would have had a better thing if all Galetian Veterans were all forms of infantry and all Bounty Hunters were maybe all cavalry or something like that, where you've got this cool infantry but cavalry is the direct counter in them, and so it would create an interesting dynamic for them, I think. But there are issues with that mechanic, I certainly feel. Moving on, battle tactics for number 4, and things I'm not particularly fond of. Now, while the grand strategies, I'll say they reward kill more, I think that's fine, but for me, the battle tactics still do reward killing more than anything. I don't think they actually make you do a secondary objective. Now, I don't think they're actually particularly harder than they were. I am still averaging about 4 to 5 a game, even taking out of the equation using, you know, army-specific ones, so that I don't think the question of, if you have army-specific ones, you've got it easier. Well, not really, because most people, I think, will be completing the same amount of battle tactics they always were. So does having army-specific ones really matter if we're still completing 4 or 5 a game? For me, they're not doing the job, is which I think the average battle tactics someone should, on average, complete. A good player should only get 2 or 3. 4 and 5 should be an absolute whitewash of a game. Close games should not have both players. Or, you know, a far game. I don't think people should be getting 4 and 5. I think even in a rout, 4 and 5 should be rare for battle tactics. And they just aren't. For me, battle tactics aren't a secondary. They're just doing more of your primary objective and primary parts of the game. Number 5, the narrative. Now, this might sound interesting because this, obviously, GHB is 4 pitched battles and it's 4 max play. But it doesn't have a narrative of what we are doing, and we're fighting in all these tunnels and all these caves and all these giant canyons in the game, and it just doesn't make sense on the tabletop. That doesn't translate well to what we're doing on the table, because we just don't have those boards available at a real, you know, an easy to access thing. Tournaments aren't going to make 50 tables of, you know, caverns, and for me, I think this lets down that immersion in the game. I have friends who are really competitive and that just don't like this thing. I think, for me, the narrative maybe doesn't fit what I'm seeing on the table, and that's why Thondia worked really well. It was, you know, a desolate area of beasts. I think there could have been a better way to do something to make this narrative more fit the games that are happening on the table. But that is my 5 good and bad of the new GHB. In all honesty, it's still Age of Sigmar. I'm still going to play the absolute hell out of it. So let us know your thoughts, what you like, what you don't like from the new GHB. I'd love to hear from everyone down in the comments below. And so that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come and chat more with me and a number of members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in our video's description to our Discord server. Finally, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so either by Patreon or YouTube members, both of which are linked down in the comments below. As a special thank you to those Patreon and YouTube members, we'd like to give you all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising 8, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Derek, and Giappi390. And a special thank you as well to Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Yun, Ronya, Lock Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Pink Nico Fire, and Robin Mankiller, our YouTube members. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you see on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Once again, everyone, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.